So I'm standing in front of the playground that's the permanent commission for the Istanbul 16th Biennial, and the title's Gorgon's. It's a Gorgon head, so it's Gorgon Playground. My name is Chetwynd. I'm the artist that's been part of a team. The team has consisted of the site manager, production team, which was based in Turkish production, and the curator and the head of the biennial. Everyone working really well together to try to make a permanent work that is not only an interactive art piece, so like a sculpture in many ways, but also a playground. The work is inspired really by some of the, I'd say, Medusa's heads or Gorgons, the Gorgon heads that I came across in the cistern, the underground water chamber by Hagia Sophia. And I was very interested in the idea of a community being protected by a head that's sort of not exactly monstrous, but a head that looks out and is slightly threatening or scary to whoever the enemy might be. And then I also really enjoyed the idea of not condescending to children and maybe making the subject matter for their play to not necessarily be something that's so sugary or pastel coloured. So it's a little bit provocative, possibly, to make something that's a little bit monstrous for the playground. I think I'm inspired by Istanbul in many ways. I'm excited by the different kinds of relaxed ways that people use the city, because there's a warmer climate here. I live in Scotland, so there's a lot of difference in the way that, people are actually out and about in the streets, just on a literal level, like the way that people would move and be in a public park. But if it's inspired specifically for the city, it's really more of a conversation I've had with the curators, with Elif and Bige, about how exciting it is to try to make an artwork that's accessible to public. It's not closed away in a museum. It's really something that people could stumble across and discover. And that I think it's exciting to have it within a municipality in the city, so that, that it's a really strange conundrum as to whether art can be functional, or whether actually whenever something is functional then it becomes design and it isn't art. So I think, to be honest with you, I'm not saying that this could be anywhere. It feels very much subconsciously or consciously made for here, but at the same time, really the concepts and the questions and the discourse is really a bigger international subject. Whether you can allow children to take different inspiring play within different types of playground, rather than all of the generic types of playgrounds, that all these big plastic playgrounds that maybe are very similar. They're like from a production that literally doesn't take in an individual community. They just churn a lot of big, very much the same type and design playgrounds. And I'm not sure it's inspiring or challenging for children, actually. So do you understand, it's not necessarily specifically to Istanbul, that answer, but at the same time I feel it's hard to explain. I don't know whether you work intuitively or subconsciously, but I do feel that it feels like it works here, this piece. The performance was the product of 2 mornings' work with a group of female dance students here at the university, and it was supported by the British Council that I would meet and work with basically female artists or female dancers, people who are creatives in Istanbul, and that would nurture sort of in a natural way connections, and also obviously just be productive in its own right. And I'd say it's absolutely naturally happened, in that we had a really fantastic time when we were privately in the studio for one morning, 4 hours, and then the next morning we came here to try and apply what we'd been working on to the park. So we were looking at the architecture and the design of the layout of the park and the different features and the playground. And so then we made a presentation for the opening of the playground as well. One thing I would say that I've really enjoyed is the steps in production. So, for example, from the very first site visit or the very first conversations, my ideas if they were inappropriate, and then afterwards coming up with a model, and then that model going to technical drawings in CAD, and then those technical drawings going to the production company in Istanbul that then reclaimed the drawings and made them for production, and then from production to the reality. This has been extraordinary and really interesting collaboration between different team members, and everyone involved has been really, they've had to be very generous to make everything work, and that's been really interesting, and I'm really proud to be part of that.